This is Beyond Influential, with Brittany Crystal. Join Brittany as she chats with today's thought leaders about the power of influence, how it's developed, and how they get us to consume both on and offline. Here's your host, Brittany Crystal.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Beyond Influential. I'm here today with Alex Taub. Alex is the co-founder and CEO of SocialRank, a tool that helps brands and individuals analyze their followings on Twitter and Instagram. He's also a Forbes contributor and an advisor to early-stage tech companies. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You do so much more than that, so I gave a really short bio, but can you give a little bit about your background and how your career has evolved to get to SocialRank?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in the city, Manhattan, on the Upper West Side, and I was always interested in technology. And straight out of school, I started working with these two guys, a company called Media End. This is an Israeli startup, and try to monetize online video. We raised $1 million, but this was like 08, 09. The economy was collapsing, and it was hard.
Was monetizing video actually something that people were really trying to do at the time, or were you early in this phase?
It was way too early. Like Hulu just was built, and people were like, there's not enough content out there. Now I think everyone would say there's too much content, but at the time there was not enough content to really monetize to make the numbers make sense. And everything was YouTube, and still, I guess everything is still sort of YouTube. But yeah, it's like a space that I haven't really touched in the last seven plus years. But it was fun, and I was doing maybe 7 to 9 years. But it was fun. I did that. But then once I really graduated from school, I joined Aviary, a photo editing company based in New York. We were building, at the time, people don't remember, people who know about Aviary don't remember, but we were a Photoshop competitor, like a web-based, Flash-based Photoshop competitor. And then we were pivoting to become a mobile API and SDK for people to plug in editing. And I was working under the founders, sort of doing business development and partnerships, building out our API on the business side of the API. And I did that for 2 years. And then I joined Dwala, a payment startup based in Iowa. I ran the New York office with my now co-founder of SocialRank. And we did that for 2 years, spent a little time in Iowa back and forth, but mostly based in New York, and doing the same thing in terms of APIs and integrations, but just doing with a payments API. So they were trying to build a new MasterCard, new Visa. And then in 2014, left and started SocialRank, and we raised like a little over $2 million and started, a really simple concept, which was, there's a lot of tools out there for digital marketing and social media. And we couldn't find like a really easy to use audience tool around social. So a lot of easy tools like the Hootsuites and the Buffers of the world that we really admired, where they made it really easy for to log in and post to multiple places. Couldn't find an equivalent for audience data, like who are your followers? So we built it. We started with Twitter, then added Instagram, and then sort of grown from there. And now we work with a ton of brands ranging from, the leagues like the NBA and the NFL to L'Oreal, Estee Lauder, Southwest Airlines, GE, Samsung, Comedy Central, etc. So that's sort of my background.
So what even got you interested in tech in the first place? Did you go to college you went to college for econ, right?
Yeah, I was an economics major. I did a few internships while I was in college. I did one at UBS and then one at Credit Suisse. And one was like private banking, and then one was sales and trading. And then my third internship was with Viacom in MTV New Business Development. So I didn't love... I like working. I just always loved working, but I didn't love the big type of, I didn't like the bank. It just wasn't for me. And then I liked the media entertainment aspect of Viacom and MTV, but I didn't like the big company feel. And then I started working with some startups, and I was like, oh, I like this.
Was your goal to build your own startup, or did you just want to work and help other people build their companies up?
It started off, someone once told me in the 20s, you learn, in the 30s, you earn. I didn't know, the first 2 years when I worked with that Israeli startup, I didn't have someone who was teaching me what to do. And that can sometimes have like a really like detrimental, not detrimental, but I'm thinking the word is wrong, but you could learn the wrong things early on because nobody taught you like the right way. So I recommend anyone who's coming out of school, like go work with people who know what they're doing and learn from them. So when I got to Aviator, I got to work with 3 people, Avi Muchnick, who was the CEO at the time, Michael Galpert, who was one of the co-founders, and a guy named Paul Murphy. And those 3 guys really accelerated my career because instead of trial and error, I was learning how to do things right.
So you have another co-founder. I've heard tons of stories about bad partnerships and things of that nature. How did you know this guy was kind of the one?
Yeah, listen, I mean, it's very difficult when you're starting a company, getting to know, sometimes you want to work with friends, sometimes you want to work with people who have different skill sets, sometimes you want to work with the same skill sets. Before I joined the company Mediand, I tried to start a company with 2 friends in college. We were all business majors. Like, it's just the worst idea you could ever have. We all had the same skill set, mostly. So when I met Michael, my co-founder, he was a developer / designer / just tech person, and I was a business person. And we sort of just fit, really well in terms of how we work together, how we approach the business. And listen, no partnership is ever perfect. And you could ask people in our office, we argue more than anyone in the world. But it's mostly good arguments, meaning we are passionate about what we do and we have opinions about what we do. And we're very type A people. So we will, go head to head and debate something. But it doesn't work for everybody. And some people might be scared by that, but it's typically not, it's never really personal. So it's, I guess my answer is it's not easy, but when you have the right sort of balance of people, it could work.
So how many employees do you have now?
We're a total of 6 people.
Total 6 people. Okay, so take me back to the beginning. What year is it that it starts, and how long till you have the idea, till you have an actual product, till you start taking on investors?
Yeah. So before we joined Awala, Michael and I were actually we worked on like a little fun project together called MVF, stood for Most Valuable Follower. It was a little hack Michael put together over the weekend, and then I got it covered in a bunch of places. And the idea was, out of all your followers on Twitter, who's the quote unquote most valuable? And it went viral. And we had like 50,000 people use it in the first 48 to 72 hours. And it was a lot of resources. So we ended up shutting it down. But every once in a while, a brand would hit us up and ask us to bring it back. They're like, we don't know anything about our followers. Can you bring it back? So that stuck with us a little bit. And then we went to join Dawala. We worked there for 2 years. And then we both felt like we had accomplished what we wanted to. And we were ready to move on and start our own thing. And we were sort of busting our asses. And, I don't know if you say ass on this, but.
No, yeah, you can swear. I can't avoid swearing, so.
Okay. So we're busting our asses, and we're 20, I don't know, at the time, 26, because we're both 30 now. We're like, if we're busting around, like we should, try to build something. We've had the experience. We know how to go about it. So we left, and we met someone who was interested in us, and said, whenever you guys are going to start a company, let me know. Maybe I'll seed you out the gate. So the person wrote a $150K check, that if we left the company, we could deposit. And so if we incorporate our own company. So we did. We left, we incorporated, deposited the check, and that gave us a good 6 months to a year to just try to build something. And he didn't even know what we were really going to build. We had a general idea. And then we went back to this idea of all these people really wanted this tool. So we went and we built it and we launched it and really just took off from there.
So were you guys big social users, or it was more the market was asking for it?
No, none of us have ever worked in social media or marketing ever, which is, I say this sometimes in meetings, is like, we have no idea what we're doing. We have no idea what you really want. We think things are cool and we're like, ooh, it's amazing if we could find this stat or that stat, but we really don't know like anything about social media or marketing. Oh, I mean, now we do. It's like 3.5 years, 4 years in. If we didn't know anything now, we were like complete idiots. But we really don't, we don't know how to think like a marketer and a social media person. And that's why we really depend on users for feedback. So a lot of our features came from brands telling us, hey, I really like your tool. It'd be amazing if it could do X. And we're like, that's a really good idea. Yeah, that's possible. Let's do it. And that's literally how our product developed.
So as far as the MVP was concerned, what were you guys using to gauge who the most valuable follower was? Did it have to do only with follower count?
No, it was bullshit. It was, it wasn't bullshit like that, but it was like, out of all your followers, who has the most followers, plus like follower to following ratio, plus a few other things. It was a black box. We didn't explain how we did it, but usually the results were interesting because it was a combination of like who has the most followers and who is like the most in demand. Sort of think of follower following as like supply and demand. So if you follow 1 million people and you have 1 million followers, less valuable than someone who has 50,000 followers, follows 100 people.
So you started on Twitter. When did you start using SocialRank for Instagram?
April 2015.
Okay.
I think.
Was that because people were just asking for it?
Yeah. People love Instagram. And, we're now like we're a community tool. We're an audience tool. We don't really identify as like an influencer tool, even though a lot of people use us for influencer marketing and things like that. But we really identify as an audience tool, audience segmentation, or community. Those are the main sort of words we use when we describe ourselves. And, we fit into, Instagram's community tool. But I mean, brands love Instagram, fashion love Instagram, and our users are brands and agencies. So it was just very, it was an obvious thing for them to want our tool.
So do you work directly with Twitter and Instagram, or are you just like, if they change their API, does that screw you over?
Theoretically, it could. In terms of Twitter, we are a paying customer for GNIP. Instagram doesn't have a GNIP equivalent. I wish they did. We'd pay them whatever money they wanted. They literally can make so much money off it. Maybe they don't care. But there's limitations on Instagram. Like you can't direct message through the API on Instagram. So you can comment on a post, but you can't message through the API. So like, for example, you're Balmain and you find 50 people that you want to invite to an event in New York with some celebrities you're hosting. You find those people with SocialRank because they're your followers, and then you have to literally go into Instagram to message them. Now, I understand why you wouldn't want to add, the ability to message the API. It could get spammy, and I understand that. And, listen, I wish they had it, but I also understand why sometimes they wouldn't want those type of things. Listen, we look at the API rules. We follow it to the closest we can. All the networks or the platforms, they want innovation, but they also have rules you got to follow. So, we have good relationships with people at these different places. We use their API. We're approved partners of both in terms of granting access, and we try to stay on their good side, and we hope that they don't change anything. But other things that we're thinking about is how do we become less dependent on the networks and the platforms, so that if they did change something, it wouldn't really affect our core business, and that's something I keeps me up at night.
So I've used SocialRank before, but for people who don't know, can you walk us through what SocialRank does and the capabilities?
Yeah, sure. So SocialRank is an audience segmentation tool. You go to socialrank.com, you sign in with your Twitter or Instagram account, and it will pull in all of your followers and make it really easy for you to sort of slice and dice them by location, interest, keywords, influence, engagement, and sort of help you find the right people for the right things. So everyone from a celebrity can use it to find, The Rock is about to go on a Jumanji tour, and he wants to find people in, Los Angeles for the premiere, and he wants to find super fans. Do that in 10 seconds. So that's the core product, and that's free. You can go to socialrank.com and log in with your own account. And then we have a product called Market Intel, which is our most popular product, which lets you run any account you want. So if you're Coke, you can run Pepsi. If you're Nike, you can run Adidas. If you're H&M and you're thinking of hiring 20 influencers, you can run those accounts and actually understand their audience. You can overlap it with your account. See, okay, well, this person has, 500,000 followers and none of them follow us. Maybe that's a great thing. Maybe that's not a good thing. Maybe you want someone who has a good overlapping audience. Maybe you want to reach a whole new group of people. So there's a lot of ways that brands, agencies, public figures can use it. And then we're working on some new products. We actually have one that we are hopefully going to launch in early December, which is around content. So right now you drop in handles. So I want to run The Rock. I want to run Nike. What about if you want to see everyone who engaged with, a tweet? So you can drop in a tweet, see everyone who retweeted, everyone who replied to it. So that's one we're working on right now. It's been requested a lot. And same with likes and comments. Like you could take a post and you could see the likes and the comments. Being able to see that in a sort of SocialRank-like experience has been our most requested feature. So that's something hopefully we'll launch in December. We're working on it right now.
So what do you advise brands about the fake influencer thing? Say they see somebody following them that has 500,000 followers and they're like, okay, that's the person for the campaign, but half of those are fake.
Yeah, I mean, so, a lot of people use us to figure that out because you can, when you run an account, you can see the distribution of followers, you can see the activity of followers, and usually you could see the average amount of comments and likes that account gets. Using those three things, you can really start understanding whether or not they have valid followers. So for example, if you have 100,000 followers and you're averaging 1 comment per post and 20 likes per post, you probably are dealing with someone with not real followers. And using SocialRank, you could spot those things. We don't say definitively this person's fake, this person's this and that, because we don't know. Only really, Instagram and Twitter can really tell you what is what. But all the filters we call them exact filters, because like if you want to see all your followers with the word dog in their bio or dog lover in their bio, like we'll show you that. And it's not a guess. It's not predictive. It's exact. It's either they have it or they don't. Whereas we're thinking of different filters that are like more predictive. Is this person male, female? Is this person, what's the age range of this person? What is the ethnicity of the person? What is all these different things that it's hard when you do granular audience data. It's hard. There's companies out there that do like macro data and we also have that in our tool, but they do macro data. It's like, well, 60% of your followers are male. It's like, all right, sounds like it makes sense, but if they showed you 60% of your followers are male and here are the followers, and then you see a bunch of brands and a bunch of women, like you're going to be like, well, this is not accurate. I can't trust this. And that's like, it's funny. Like I've seen companies, I won't say any names, but I've seen companies where like, it says like 90% of my followers are married. I'm like, come on. Why are we playing this game? That's not real. But like, if they don't show you who, you can get away with some of the more basic stuff. It doesn't sound outlandish.
So what do most brands and agencies come to you for? What's the most requested feature?
The ability to run other accounts. The market intel tool is by far our most popular feature in all of SocialRank. That's the main use case, is like, I want to come in and I want to see someone else's, audience.
So how much training do you end up giving these people on SocialRank? Because the tool is so powerful, but if you just hand them a tool, people don't automatically know how to use it. How complicated is it?
Yeah, no, we do training. So when you become a customer, there's the free version and we have like onboard, we have FAQs and stuff like that, and people figure it out or they don't. But if you become a customer, we have a account manager, we do training, we have the whole kit and caboodle, and we'll do as much training as you want. And to be honest, like we want to train you as much as we want to actually hear what you're really thinking and what you really want, because that will dictate a lot of our future product. So like all these ideas, like that content idea was first asked us by Sony Music back in 2014. So they it's actually a funny story. I'm hoping for the blog post of the launch, we can solve the question, which is one of their artists, which is a young jock, is I guess he's part of the Young family. And so he normally averaged about 10 to 20 retweets, not even 5 to 10 retweets per post, 10 to 20 likes per post. Mm-hmm. Cool. Not bad. Great. Doesn't have millions of followers. He's got a little audience. And he had one post that had 8,000 retweets and 8,000 likes. And they have no idea why. So they're like, something feels weird here. Either someone like bought a lot of engagement on that one post, or someone big retweeted it and we just didn't see it or we don't know. So they're like, can we drop it in and do the same thing? And we're like, no, we can't do that, but that's like a great idea. And it was always something we wanted to do, but we were focused on followers and audience and not content. So it just never felt like the right moment. And now it does, because we're a little more mature and, evolved. But I'd love for the blog post of announcing this for us to answer the question, why did that post pop? And that's a really great thing.
That's amazing.
Being able to find out, why does content blow up, and seeing the people behind it. If you have like some really funny meme post like that has 10,000 retweets, like, why did that one blow up? Well, oh wow, Seth Rogen retweeted it, and I don't know, Donald Trump Jr. retweeted it. That seems like he's involved with that type of stuff.
Will that be something that you'd allow general public to purchase, or is that something that would really be more brand agency?
We're still debating it. I think we have to pay for access to be able to do it. So it'll really depend. I'd love to. I think we're going to launch it in beta first. But what I'd love to do is allow you, if you authenticate your account, you can see maybe your post, your last post for free. And then if you want everyone else, all the other posts, you have to like purchase like premium maybe. And then if you want to run someone else's account, but think of it this way, like imagine you're a brand and you have 20 influencers who are doing posts on Twitter or Instagram. This is like a next level content performance measurement where you could be like, we had this Dove campaign and 20 influencers posted about it, and here's all the people who liked and commented on it. Because right now they're just getting likes, comments, reach, impressions. This will like add another level. And for the good stuff, it'll be amazing. And for the bad stuff, it'll be like, well, wow, we got all this engagement, but there's no one really here. Do
you help measure conversion?
No, we don't have that type of stuff.
Okay, so that's up to the brands to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, we're strictly like just audience information. We don't have anything off social right now.
Do they give you guys any kind of case studies, like if micro influencers work for them versus larger influencers?
No, we have a bunch of different case studies of how different brands have used us, but we don't. It's interesting, some of the platforms like the Twitters and Instagram, they don't really love the concept of influencers. I think there's a debate, like an internal struggle of whether or not they're good for the platform.
Really?
And what I mean by that is, I think there's some people who believe it takes away money from ad dollars. And I think there's other people who think that if you do the right influencer with the right piece of content and it blows up, they're going to spend more ad dollars. So I think it initially may take a little bit money away from ad dollars, but then when it works, it blows the doors off the spend. So, for example, like if you go look at like the appropriate ways that you could use Instagram, like they don't say anything. They don't say influencer stuff. They actually, I think it's one of the things that they don't want to do is influencer stuff. But audience, community, that's where we fit in. And I struggle a little bit. I don't love the word influencer. I know people use the word like creator and this and that. I don't love it. And I'm not like bashing on it. I know people are.
I don't like when people call themselves influencers. I think it's definitely become a dirty word. You can't call yourself an influencer. Somebody else can tell you that you're influential. You can't say you're influential yourself.
Yeah. I personally do agree that like, I agree with both sides. I think it initially takes a little bit money away from ad dollars, but I think that if you find the right person and you do the right influencer campaign, and I think Instagram is realizing that's where they're doing like sponsored posts on the top now. You can see that. Mm-hmm. I think that like their goal now is they can track that, and then they're like, all right, this one did well on its own, but imagine we actually put it through the ad machine from Facebook and Instagram. It's going to perform off the charts. And I think that long term, they'll make so much more money. The initial money that they lose from people spending it on an influencer as opposed to buying an ad will get better content. Because that's in the end of the day is.
Yeah, these people make the content for you. That's.
Yeah. But if you're going to use ads, and if you want, your ads product to continue to grow, which I think specifically Instagram is destroying it. I mean, they're, everything they're touching is gold right now. Whether it's, stories or this or that, like, I just think that, I think they realized internally that it's better to support it because it will net more ad revenue. I think. I don't know specifics. I don't have like a little microchip listening in on their meetings, but that's my gut.
I mean, that's super interesting to me. I hadn't heard that debate before, but it makes so much sense to me that I mean, I understand Instagram thinking maybe that they'd get fewer ad dollars if they're not just buying, putting out their own creative. Let's say Pepsi buys, ads, and instead they're giving it to X influencer with 1 million followers. But you're right. Like, I just think the influencers feed back in with the content that they'll end up getting the money anyway, I think, in the long run.
Yeah. And I think that's the conclusion why we're seeing a lot of this stuff. And I don't know if it was like a full blown debate, but I know like for a little while, like Snapchat did not embrace influencers at all. And I think
it's still not great, actually.
Yeah.
I've heard different stories from people that...
No, it's still not great, but I think for them, they were thinking more of like the user experience and it's for friends, not whatever. But they didn't, maybe now they're realizing that drives a lot of the stuff, like the interest in these people. So yeah, it's interesting who embraces, who doesn't. You see like Vine shut down after they totally like did not support their people. They all went to Instagram. So I think Instagram has found the right balance now. But yeah, I've heard mixed things.
I think there's something interesting too to keeping people on the platform because of the potential of becoming an influencer. I don't know if it is just inherently...
It's the dream.
And I think that's what keeps people there. I know it shouldn't be the dream, but I think it is for a lot of people. And posting the content, it's self-feeding that way. And I think if Instagram was to get rid of that like potential fame aspect, I think that kills something for the platform.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that argument. That's a valid argument. So I mean, that's my 2 cents on influencers.
So talking about influence, what do you think the secret to influence is in any space?
You're probably asking the wrong person. I know I work in the...
You work in the tech space and you're also an advisor to startups. So what is it that even brings your attention to these companies?
Well, I mean, that's a little different than, influencers. I mean, I like companies who like build interesting tech, or they have an interesting business, or there's something there where, it's an old industry that never really digitized itself. And, it's rethinking the ways they're doing X, Y, or Z. In terms of influencers, I mean, that's a totally different story. I think it's, that's the individual as opposed to a group of people, and there are some like, individual stars from companies, early stage companies, but usually, I guess they're mini operations, the people to some degree, but yeah, I mean, I'm just saying I don't know much about like, how does someone become an influencer? I don't know.
But that's the thing is influence to me isn't necessarily influencer in quotes. It's not a social media thing. It's people just in the space who, when they talk, you're listening.
Yeah.
And that to me is influence.
Okay.
So like for me, who's currently impressing you in the startup space? These people have your attention.
Who's impressing me in the startup space?
Or in the tech space at all? Like who are you listening to? Who do you care about?
I think like I have a few different friends who had, different startups that I really like. They're mostly not consumer. I mean, there's a few. There's one called Tribe Co-Living, which is like sort of like we live, where it's like a co-living space. The big thing they do is like interest-based housing. So there's a music house, there's a tech house, there's a film house, there's I don't know how many they've gone so far. They have 6 locations. They're based in New York. They're 2 guys who are doing like 2 million in revenue, like 1 or 2 years in, and they're like growing the business now, and they're gonna like launch a bunch of new places. One of my favorite companies is a company called Rebel. We actually share an office with them, and they do interactivity in emails, specifically around commerce. So imagine like instead of going to a janky website to try to buy something from I don't know, from Amazon or from Home Depot, you literally, or from Casper or whatever the company is, you literally can buy it in the email. So companies like that I think are really cool, but they're less like consumery. I love HQ right now. I don't know if you've played HQ.
I have not.
It's the founder of Vine. It's a game show every day at 3 and 9. Or no, sorry. It's 3 p.m. on weekdays and 9 p.m. every day, including the weekends. And it's basically a game show and 12 questions. There's money and winners split it. And it's a lot of fun. And the host is funny. His name is Scott. And he's just he's like becoming a meme in of himself. But it's like I think the biggest game was like 50,000 people so far. And one of the founders of Vine started it. They're based in New York, and it is just a lot of fun. It's really funny. And the best I've done is like 9 out of 12 questions. And it's not easy. It's like you need to know everything from like pop culture to sports to the periodic table to world history.
How'd you even find it?
Friend of mine posted it when they launched on Facebook or Twitter. They got a bunch of press recently in the last like month.
I'm going to check that out.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. We actually stop every day at 3:00, and we do it all together in the office.
It is that fun that you stop work for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 100% checking this out today.
There's a game in like 3.5 hours at 9:00.
I'm going to check it out. So what kind of help are these startups usually looking for when you are advising them?
Sometimes it's introductions to investors. Sometimes it's introductions to press. Sometimes it's partners. Usually those three.
That makes sense. And you've been in the business development world for a long time. And just the theme from all the people I've been speaking to is just how important having a strong network is. How important has networking been to you? And do you have any tips on how to actually build an effective network?
Yeah. So, I mean, starting at a young age in the tech space, I went to a lot of events and tried to meet as many people as possible. And that served me well. I mean, I was out literally 3 to 5 nights out of every week going to some sort of tech event for a good 2-3 years, and got me to a point where I was like 1 degree away from anybody. So if I need to talk to somebody at Apple, I can hit up someone either there or someone who knows someone who's there. And that was really important before I started a company, being able to get to anybody. And then on top of that, it's just like going and working at these, 2 venture-backed startups before starting my own, gave you, when you go to an event, you're like, hi, I'm Alex from X. I'm, Brittany from Y. It gives you that like instant validation. Whereas like, oh, hey, I'm Alex and I'm like working on or thinking about like, there's nothing bad about it. It's just having, coming from a company that people know of, it can be very helpful. So, that was like, a really helpful thing when going out to these events and being like, hey, I work for this, this startup and we're doing X, Y, and Z, and, became friends with a lot of people, and that just like snowballed the networking.
So then how did you get to start writing for Forbes, and how do you decide what you want to write about?
Yeah. So when I was at Aviary in 2010, I started writing a blog called Alex's Tech Thoughts. All the stuff's still up there. I shouldn't have as much time anymore to write because I have a startup and I have a 2-year-old. But I would just write about things I was learning, and I would take that and I would share that information. So got a little bit of a, not following, but a little bit of readership. And that ended up leading to a reporter from Forbes reaching out and being like, hey, really, like your stuff. Do you ever consider writing for Forbes, every once in a while? So I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool. So they set me up with the, CMS, and I can publish directly on the WordPress. And yeah, I've been doing that ever since 2011. And that actually led to me writing a book back in 2014, called Pitching and Closing. Sort of like everything you need to know about business development and partnerships for early stage companies. And I wrote it with a friend of mine, Ellen Da Silva. She's used to work at Twitter, then she went to HBS. Now I believe she works at YouGov. And we wrote it together. Wow. And it's McGraw-Hill. Published it.
Oh, you got like an actual publisher. This is a real book.
Oh yeah. Of course. It wasn't like one of those self-published. No offense to any self-publishers. I mean, I think 50 Shades of Grey was self-published originally. Yeah. So no, someone hit me up literally on LinkedIn. They said, hey, like your stuff on Forbes and your blog. Have you ever thought of turning it into a book? I'm like, I have not, but now I have, and let's talk.
So what even compelled you to put your thoughts online?
Actually, it was a friend of mine, Sam Rosen, he's the founder and CEO of Makespace. And I remember where we were getting coffee and meeting for the first time, even though we were like friendly on the internet first, on 30th and 7th, right near Madison Square Garden. And I was giving him advice about something. I don't know why I was qualified to give him any advice at the time. But he's like, wow, that was really good. You should start a blog. I'm like, that's a good idea. And then I brought it back to my boss. I was like, can I share what I'm learning here? And he's like, yeah, but I will say, if you're going to write, whatever you start with, make sure you do that consistently. So if you're going to write once a week, write once a week. If you're going to write 4 times a week, write 4 times a week. And I decided 4 times a week, and I did that for like good 5-6 years.
That's awesome. And I'm a huge fan of Makespace.
Oh yeah, no, Sam's the best. I wrote on my blog, like he's responsible for why I started writing originally.
That's amazing. So yeah, so you started writing, you had this book. Can you give me some high level points that I can take away from the book without having to read it?
Whoa, you got to buy that book on Amazon. No, a lot of the stuff I talk about in the book are around like, why would one company want to work with another company? What type of stuff you need to think about when you're an early stage company trying to pitch a bigger company? One of the things is about, like, we call it like the 3 golden rules of like partnerships. Or maybe it's the 4 golden rules. I don't know. It's been a few years. Like one is like, people will work with you if you can make them money, you can save them money, you can grow their user base or improve their product. So if you have a product and you have a partnership proposal or idea that you want to do, think about those 4 things. If you're going to make them money, the question is like, how much money are you going to make them? If you're going to save them money, the question is how much are you going to save them? If you're going to improve their product, like, can you quantify how much improved it's going to be? And if you're going to grow users, how many users are you going to bring them? And then you need to think about what their priorities are. So sometimes companies are in the phase of growing and they don't care about revenue. Sometimes they're in the phase of revenue, they don't care about growing. And sometimes they're in the phase of just, staying the same and keep, doing what they're doing. And if you're coming and saying, I'm going to bring you so many users and all they care about is making money, it's not going to be a good fit. So it's about that type of stuff, understanding the dynamics of, so if you come to somebody and you say, I'm going to be able to make you money, and it's a lot of money, and you care about money right now, you're slated for a meeting. You have a high chance of closing, and you just need to be able to prove it.
So how long did it take you to get comfortable to give that kind of advice? How many years of experience did you have under your belt?
Not a lot, but I'm a white man, so I think that's I think I have that white man syndrome. I don't know. I just started writing. Honestly, it was more writing for me, and then people seem to like it. But I wasn't. I don't know. Listen, I have confidence to write. I guess I didn't think anyone really would care. And by the time it got bigger, like big enough to write a book, I was in this space for 4 or 5 years and more established. So I didn't, I don't know. I got weird around like promoting the book because I don't know, you have to have I feel like I spoke to Gary or Phil once about it. And I think it was Gary or Phil said you have to, I can't remember who said this, but somebody at the VaynerMedia company said you have to come to the conclusion that you will not pimp the book, but you'll have to promote yourself, and it's an uncomfortable decision to make. But it's maybe not uncomfortable, but it's a decision you make, and if you feel uncomfortable about it, it may not be the best thing for you. But when you're Gary and you're promoting a book, you're trying to sell a book, you try to do everything you can to sell more copies of it. I never did the whole dog and pony show once we wrote the book. We got a few excerpts places, but it was never going to be Harry Potter. I wasn't angling it for that. And it was more it's nice. Once in a while we get emails from kids at university, business school, whatever. And they're like, this book really helped, try to frame. And the idea was to write more of a timeless book about early stage companies. And yeah, there's some things that are relevant for the here and now, but it's giving that advice. And the other thing is there's 3 sections to the book. One is the general, what is business development? What are partnerships? What are early stage companies? Then there's war stories. And then there's talking to 5 to 10 senior business people and then telling their stories. So it wasn't just me, saying what I think. Cool. We were trying to get more legitimate people on the record about stuff. What I should have done, what I probably would have felt more comfortable is gone on college campuses, talked about the book, did guest lectures and stuff like that. And I did a few of those, but I probably could have put a plan together. I also, the unfortunate thing is I finished the book right as I was leaving Douala, in between Douala and SocialRank. I knew we were leaving, hadn't left yet. It was like the holiday season, finished the book over that. And then the book came out that was like a January time. We left like January 13th, started the company January 15th. And then the book came out in July. And I was like first year into startup.
Yep.
I didn't have time. I didn't have time either. I mean, I didn't have a baby yet, but I didn't have time. So it was a few things.
Well, I really appreciate your time. Where can people find out more about you and SocialRank?
Yeah, you go to socialrank.com, RANK, and log in with your Twitter, Instagram account. You can email me at alex@socialrank.com. Pretty responsive. And then on Twitter, I'm AJT. So yeah, come find me on Twitter.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
Thank you for listening to Beyond Influential. If you found value in this week's episode, please rate and subscribe on iTunes. I'd love to know who you find influential. You can let me know on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Brittany Crystal, KRYSTLE, or visit my website, brittanycrystal.com.
Beyond Influential.